Welcome to Ready Academy and our first course in the Civic and Social Responsibility series, Service Dog Essentials, Do's, Don'ts, and How to Interact with these amazing animals. It exists both in a computer-based, self-paced training package, as well as this video that you're watching now. We'll talk more about this later. Working dogs, including service dogs, play an important role in a variety of industries and settings in our society. They're highly trained, highly skilled, and dedicated animals that work alongside humans to accomplish a wide range of tasks. Now, whether that's detecting explosives, herding livestock, providing emotional or physical support, working dogs are an invaluable asset to society. With their increased prevalence, it's more important than ever before that we learn what kinds of working dogs there are, how to interact or perhaps not interact with these specialized animals, and how to help their handlers when needed. Okay, so let's take a minute to talk about working dogs. These dogs have been working alongside humans for literally, in some cases, thousands of years. Their skills and abilities have been harnessed in a wide range of tasks. We'll look at some of those in a moment. There are many types of working dogs, and I have by no means a definitive list, but I do have some to show you. They've been throughout various human industries and services. The service dog is just one, albeit very important, category of working dog. But once again, there's a lot more, and not just the service dogs that we normally think of. Specifically, some of the types of working dogs that you're likely to encounter, police dogs, of course. Those are one. And it's funny, a lot of people don't think of them as working dogs, but they are. And a lot of the same rules that we apply to any working dog should be applied to them. Don't interrupt them. Let them do their task. Search and rescue dogs, military dogs or war dogs, herding dogs, the sheepdog trials and things like that, hunting dogs, therapy dogs, and of course ultimately, once again, the service dog, which is a special category in itself and is actually quite large. Let's talk about service dogs now. Service dogs are a broad category of working dog and very important resource for people with disabilities. They provide assistance, companionship, and independence for their handler or partner. Different types of service dogs are trained to perform specific tasks based upon the individual needs of their handlers and depending on the type of disability that their handler has. The number of tasks these dogs can perform is immense. Obviously not all the tasks that I'll have listed for you, but they're truly amazing. Now, some of the types of service dogs include, and this is by no means a definitive list, guide dogs, helping people that are visually impaired, hearing dogs, mobility assistance dogs, a function that Missy will be performing for me once she gets a little bit further trained, medical alert dogs, psychiatric service dogs.
We train dogs to guide people with a trauma out of a nightmare, because we not only help people who cannot see, but also those who've seen too much.
So one question I often get asked is, where can we go as a service dog and handler pairing? Generally, a service dog can go anywhere their handler can. There are a few restrictions, and you're going to have to check in your particular jurisdiction to find out what they are and how they apply. Ideally, the dog is vested or identified as a service animal, but that isn't mandatory. And once again, you should be able to just explain that you have a service dog and it's supposed to be respected. At least it is in Ontario and various parts of Canada. Only if the dog isn't clean, and I mean literally dirty, not just perceived as unclean due to some cultural restriction, or that the dog is exhibiting bad behavior, can they be barred from an establishment. That said, everyone, both the handler and the citizen, should be prepared to make some sort of reasonable accommodation in a polite society. One of the things I do when I sit down in a restaurant is, if I'm close to people with Missy, the first thing I ask is, anyone have any allergies to dogs? Does anyone have any aversion to dogs? And some cases people have, and I said, no problem, I'll move. I'm coming in after you. You're already here. I'm not going to interrupt your dinner. Other places, once again, due to cultural restrictions, they'd prefer that the dog not be there. And once again, it's a simple courtesy to just ask and, once again, try to accommodate. But, people in society should also make those same accommodations for you and your dog. So let's talk about how to approach a service dog, or when a service dog comes towards you. It's important that a working or service dog not be distracted from their primary function, especially in the case of a guide dog, as we discussed, or a hearing dog as well. Here are a few best practices upon meeting a working dog, especially for the first time. Do not pet the dog without permission. Some dogs can be social on a selected basis, but make certain that you get permission. Ideally, don't distract them at all. You really don't need to pet that dog, no matter how much you really want to. You've got to make sure that dog doesn't learn to seek out attention while they're working. That includes play and social activities like trying to play catch or shake a paw. Once again, I've not taught Missy to shake a paw. It's a cute trick, but not one that she needs to know. And as a result, she's less likely to try and offer up a paw for playtime or for distraction. And do not speak directly to the dog unless it's playtime with their vest off, or part of a training test, or you are allowed to give a command to the dog. They should only be getting commands from their handler. So once again, don't talk directly to the dog or try to distract the dog by calling its name. Continuing with that list, do not give treats without permission from the handler, especially when working or playing. Treat food is a very powerful motivator, and it should be reserved to support training and good behavior. You just don't want to sort of be giving it away at any chance. And you really don't want the dog going to strangers and seeking out treats, or seeing that they've got something that might be of interest and wanting to try and get some from them. You really want them only taking food or treats from their handler. You may be welcome to participate in some of the dog's training or testing. Speak to the handler about whether or not you're able to help, and what scenarios you want to do it. If the dog becomes overly inquisitive or seeking a pat on the head while they should be working, then don't react. Advise the handler and partner. Let them know that the dog is being too attentive to you. Maybe there's something unique about you. Maybe there's something you've done. Maybe the dog needs some reinforcement in terms of their training. All situations that the handler should be aware of and can work on with the dog. Just some thoughts for you from a handler myself. Things I've learned over the past couple of years, 4 years with Missy, and some of them you'll find in various lists and notebooks and so on, advising what you should or shouldn't do. Other cases, these are just things I've learned on my own. First, don't ask the handler what the service dog is for or what duties they perform. This can be terribly personal. Some people don't want to admit that they have PTSD. Some people don't want to admit that they have a seizure disorder or some other function anxiety disorder, what have you. I used to be a big burly army guy. Do I want to admit that maybe I have anxiety issues? Because I use Missy as a training aid to help people, I've accepted that I can talk about it. But not everyone wants to, and it's just not a good idea to bring that up for someone. Many people don't know service dog etiquette. Keep that in mind. So try not to get too angry if they break the sort of cardinal rules or the basic etiquette rules that I've already provided. Just politely tell them, I'd prefer you not do that. I'd prefer that you not pet my dog, or you can pet my dog, but only after I give the dog permission to be social. It's important that people be taught slowly what service dog etiquette is. look to leverage those situations as training opportunities, even with bad etiquette. So if someone pets your dog, you could tell them, look, you're not supposed to do that, but it's okay. I'm going to put the dog back into working mode so that she knows that she's broken a rule, or that she knows that social time is over, and we'll use this as a training opportunity. There's other opportunities, such as someone could try to offer the dog a treat and you tell the dog no, but what you do is you have a better treat, and you teach the dog to come for the better treat from you, as opposed to taking something from someone else. So they still get rewarded, and they learn to use the no command, or don't, and it's very valuable. You and your dog are ambassadors to the community. Keep that in mind. So once again, some people may have never seen a service dog before, or they know very little about service dogs. So use every opportunity as a vehicle for teaching if you can, if you have time. And of course, that's another problem when you have a service dog, is almost everything you do from that point forward is going to take you almost twice as long, because one, you've got this permanent toddler that's following you around. And dogs are very intelligent, but at the level of intelligence of a human toddler with a whole bunch of very advanced skills. But the other thing is, too, that people are always wanting to know a little bit more about the service dog, what they do, how they do it, what they can and can't be asked to do. So once again, you are an ambassador. If you have the time, try to use it to teach, whether it's teaching children to say, do you know what this jacket means on my dog? Or to correct adults who may be doing things that they shouldn't be doing when they see a service dog. It's hard for some people to resist. Expect to be harassed if you don't have a visible disability. I hate to suggest that you are going to be harassed, but there are people out there who will be very upset if they see that, hey, you're not blind, you don't need a guide dog. Well, no, because she's not a guide dog. People don't necessarily understand that working dogs and service dogs are a massive list of functions and services that they provide, and it's not all about guiding people. That's part of the reason why we've created this video. So once again, do expect some people to take umbrage with the fact that you have a dog and that you're using it, and you don't appear to be blind. And then also be prepared for some people to seek out your advice. I actually had a gentleman come up to me with a white cane, clearly visually impaired, and he walked up to me and he says, "Can I ask you a question, sir?" And I said, "Certainly, of course." And he said, "How do I get a service dog?" Well, in my case, mine's a service dog provided through the military and the Legion. But in this particular gentleman's case, I said, well, there are ways. First starts off with a doctor's note, but even before that, I have one very important question for you. And he said, well, what's that? And I said, well, it's clear you've got some level of vision, right? And he goes, yes. Good. So you'll be able to pick up the dog's poop. Now, it sounds funny, but imagine that a lot of people forget to take into account that that dog not only works for you, but you work for him or her. And that includes cleaning up after them, making sure that they're fed, making sure they get bathed. And if you can't do it, which is for some people not possible, and that's fine, but if you can't do those basic functions to help the dog, you're going to have to make sure you have those provisions in place before the dog arrives with you. So just a little bit of a sanity check before you go ahead with the dog, but well worth it. So let's talk about desensitization. And that's basically making the dog not respond to certain stimulus or strange environments or situations. Some of the dog's training will be specifically geared towards giving them exposure to new situations, loud traffic, room full of people, elevator rides, etc. And they're helping them desensitize to situations where they would be working. Imagine police dogs have to be trained to not panic when they hear gunfire. Same thing with military dogs, not to panic during explosions or artillery strikes. It's difficult, but necessary. And the same is true for civilian working dogs as well. These kinds of environments or situations that these dogs are going to encounter could include the following. Being downtown near noisy traffic, loud buses, motorcycles, trains, etc. Missy, when I first got her as a puppy, was quite terrified of motorcycles noises and buses. buses because they hissed like giant metal cats when the doors opened, which you can imagine a cat spitting in a door, pneumatic door opening, very similar sounds and very scary for a puppy. So we had to get her through those as well. Being intentionally approached by strangers. You can actually ask people, if you know your dog's not going to bite someone and not going to panic, you can ask someone, would you approach my dog and try to pet her, see how she reacts, and get someone that she hasn't met before, and someone that you know, or at least knows you well enough to trust you and your dog. And once again, teach your dog to respond positively, or at least not negatively, maybe not positively, but not in the negative either, to being intentionally approached and given unwanted attention by a stranger. Meeting people with unusual devices and appliances. Missy used to stare when she saw people in wheelchairs or people in walkers. She found it very, very unusual, something strange about them, and it caused her to pause. It's okay. Curiosity is fine and it's normal. But what you want to do is desensitize her to those curiosities and make certain that the dog is able to carry on with their primary task once they've gotten used to the idea that there are some people out there with some extra legs and some wheels and a few other things that they do. And it also makes certain that the person on the receiving end of the attention isn't unnerved either. And then finally, meeting people in uniform. This is another one that I think is absolutely critical, or ones associated with unusual smells, functions, etc. I used to go to the hospital, and there was one of the largest human beings I have ever seen. I mean, physically, just immense. And I used to work with paratroopers, and this gentleman was one of the security guards. And I used to ask him to rough up my dog and play with her. And what would happen is that he would approach Missy with his hat on, his armor, and he would go up to her and he would start stroking her and petting her after I told her it was okay to make friends. And it was to once again desensitize her that big people with hats and beards and canes and so on, or batons, are not bad people. Strange men with hats and beards are not necessarily someone you have to be afraid of. And it helped a great deal with their desensitization. So a few more thoughts from a handler. Be best if a service dog's first interaction with first responders, such as police officers, firefighters, and ambulance staff, not be when the handler is having an actual emergency. It shouldn't be their first encounter if you can avoid that. Careful desensitization under controlled circumstances is the key to help maintain future calmness during an actual critical incident or emergency. So please support desensitization if asked. Don't just engage without permission or a plan, but similarly, if you happen to be a first responder and someone brings their service dog to you asking you to engage or socialize with that dog, then try to do so. It really is very helpful in ensuring that the dog is prepared for a future event or emergency and has positive interaction with you and your peers when in a time of need. So the next question is, what do you do if a service dog comes to find you and there's no handler? If a service dog approaches you without their handler, it may indicate that they're trying to get attention or assistance because something has happened to that individual, or maybe the dog themselves is actually in trouble and lost and requires assistance. So the steps that you can take, and you're going to have to use a little bit of initiative here and good judgment. But first, stay calm. Don't distract the dog. If it approaches you without their handler, once again, it can be a little alarming, especially if it's a big dog like Missy is, for instance. But the dog is likely just seeking help. Don't distract them. Instead, try to work with them. Avoid petting or distracting the dog. Service dogs are trained to stay focused on their handler, and they're still focused on that handler even if they're away, because once again, there's some need or issue that's going on. Distractions could interfere with their ability to do their job. Look around for that handler or partner. Scan your surroundings to see if the handler is nearby or potentially in distress. And if you do see them, alert them to the fact that their dog is present and that there's some sort of behavior issue that's going on. I've actually had Missy bring the neighbor over when she thought I was not well, and she broke off her leash, and she was in the backyard, and brought the neighbor over. And he thought maybe there was something wrong. My neighbor, of course, was a very good person about coming over to see, and didn't mind, because they knew it was an important part of the dog's behavior. Now, next on our list, call for help. If you're unable to locate the handler, call your local animal control or non-emergency police number, and advise that you have a service dog that seems to be away from their partner and is seeking out some sort of assistance. They can help you get in touch with the appropriate people who can handle the situation and ensure the dog is safely returned to the handler. Most of these dogs are usually chipped, so once again, the contact details and addresses and other information for them are usually well known. Provide assistance. Be careful not to interfere with the dog's primary function, but once again, if possible, ask the dog to lead you to their handler, and see if you can get the dog to help you. And then lastly, stay with the pair until help arrives, or that you're assured that everything is okay. Maybe the handler still needs some assistance, so even though you're with them and the dog, once again, stay with them, give any other assistance they may need until either police or ambulance or a friend and family come by to help them carry on. In some cases, for instance, a diabetic who's having a low sugar issue, maybe you have to be with them and help them get some juice or some candy to deal with the low sugar event. You don't want to leave that individual out by themselves. So be a good, responsible citizen and assist in any way that you can, and it'll be help everybody. So with the increased prevalence of working dogs in our society, once again, it's becoming essential that we all know how to interact with these dogs, or more importantly, how not to interact, and to assist their handlers when needed. Few key points to remember, of course, assuming my slides will go forward. This is not good. So don't interact with or otherwise distract the working dog unless given permission or it's a part of a training activity. And that includes petting. Do assist and follow a working dog that's unaccompanied by its handler, but once again, do not interfere if they still appear to be on task. And lastly, assist with training if invited by the handler and you're not intimidated by the working dog. That's especially important because if you're intimidated by the dog, but you still want to try and help out, the dog can sense those pheromones of fear, and once again, might have unpredictable reaction. So it's something you want to keep in mind. So this concludes our course on Service Dog Essentials from Ready Academy. Thank you for joining us, and please come to the site and see if there's other courses or materials that you might be interested in, whether it's static videos like this or actual computer-based training packages and other services that we have. Speaking of which, we'll go through them. So if you or your organization needs training materials, could be just for personal activities for a club, could be because your product line at your company needs it, it could be because your corporation requires to do refresher training, we can help you with those things. Ready Academy can take your existing training content, breathe new life into it as online videos or self-paced computer-based training activities, which will include testing and certification that an individual has passed. It'll take some of the pain out of annual refresher training. Everyone trains and tests when they need to, not just when they're all available. Once again, you won't have to set up classrooms or other environments for them. You need something new? No problem. We'll help build it with you. We can take new subjects and new content, work with your subject matter experts, and once again, build the kind of training that you need. Our services include recorded presentations, self-paced and timed computer-based training with grading, testing and scoring, interactive media, powerful PowerPoint packages with multimedia embedded with them, and online surveys, which are also quite valuable, especially when you want to get sort of the pulse of the customer, and you can send those things out as well. For all of these things, contact us at info@Ready Academy, or alternatively try our telephone number down below, 613-793-5400. 5478, and we will be getting a toll-free number very soon as well.